So in this example, I'm going to create a column chart using Y-Scout data to visualize a number of actions per possession. So the first step, I'll grab a chart and drag it in my code window. If I then double click the chart, that opens up the inspector and I can select the chart type, which in this case I'll choose column, and I'll also rename this chart to call it actions per possession. Now that I've given that a name, the next thing I'll do is I'm going to jump across into the scripting tab and I'm going to enter the script that I want to execute within this chart. And if I click on the execute button, you'll see the chart populates. At this point, I can drag it and resize it and position it as I choose. Then the next thing I'm going to do is come across to the chart settings tab and I can start to configure how the chart's laid out. So in this option, I can choose whether I want to display the axis names or not. In terms of the axis names, I can rename my axis name. In this case, I'll call the x-axis the action count, for example. And in this example, I don't want to display both the x and y axis, but I'll only display the x-axis only, so I can use the toggle to display just the x-axis name. Now, the other options I have within here that I can choose whether or not I want to display the numerical axis values. I can display the data point names, and I can choose whether or not I want to display the values. Now, in relation to the values, once they're displayed, I can choose whether I want to display them as a value in percentage, value only, or a percentage only. And I can control the number of decimal points with each of those, with the default being 0. Now, in relation to the data point names, I can adjust the angle of those, and I can have them oriented horizontally or vertically. And I can choose to adjust the scale. So the X and Y axis scales here are set automatically by default, but I can also then choose to set values within there, or I can adjust the steps within the scales and make adjustments with the way the chart is laid out in that way. I can also then make adjustments within relation to the gaps between bars, and I can choose whether I want the chart to align to the top or to the bottom. So if I choose the top alignment, it now then realigns that chart to the top. If I go into report mode, I can also then click any value in this chart, and that will bring up the video related to those instances. Since this is a column chart, if I select the chart up again, if I go back in, I can also orient this as a bar chart, which will change the orientation of the chart. And if I then come back into the chart settings tab, I have all the same options. The only difference being now I can choose whether I want to align the chart left or right.